Since it's Magic Weekend, I thought I'd do some magic to start this video. Now, I have a question that I will relay to the cards. The cards, through magic, will provide the answer for me. Cards. Almighty cards. Tell me, how many times have Warrington Wolves beaten St Helens in a row? Magic. Thank you to Jonathan Manson and Vicky Tyler for becoming members and supporting the Kinetic Rugby League channel. If you'd like to support the channel and the work that I do, you can for as little as £1 per month by clicking the join button below this video. Also, I've set up a Kinetic Rugby League Discord channel, so if you'd like to join a new Rugby League forum, the link is in the description. So I've left a recap of last week's predictions up on the screen for you guys, and I've left the recap of the season so far. Now, if I have to keep predicting Warrington to lose in order for them to win, I will continue to do so. Just so you know, it makes me feel terrible on the inside, but sometimes it must be done. Kicking things off for Magic Weekend, we have the Leigh Leopards taking on Catalans Dragons. So both teams have won 3 on the bounce going into this game. Now, the quality of opponents has been relatively similar, I'd say. Some on the easy side, some on the kind of tricky side. So it's a little bit balanced for both these teams. Now, these teams played in round 3, where Leigh Leopards were extremely comfortable, but they're coming up against a Catalans team that is very different to that round 3 team. They've definitely progressed massively on the defensive side, especially. I think the biggest advantage for either team is probably Catalans through the centre of the park in the forward battle. I think the Dragons' defence is looking strong enough as well to keep out Leigh's attack. Now, they've looked quite exciting on the offensive side, have Leigh, but there are a few pieces that I think will be missing. So I believe Armstrong's going to be out this week. I also believe that Hanley and Niu are also out for another week. Do correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I don't always get suspensions and injuries correct. So if I'm wrong on that one, let me know. But I believe Armstrong, Niu and Hanley will all be unavailable. So that takes out a lot of sting on the attacking side, a lot of the pace and power with carries out the backfield. And I think the forward battle will lean in favour of Catalans Dragons. Their defence is stronger. Leigh's attack can be good, as I've said. Lam and O'Brien will have a lot of work to do. I think Leo's done a good job through the centre of the field on the attacking side of things, whether it be carries or distributing the ball left and right across the park. But Catalans, they have improved as a team. Defence is stronger. They're stronger through the middle. And I think the win against Wakefield showed that the wins against the worst opponents in the league weren't just sort of fake wins that we can't really take seriously. So I'm going to go with Leigh Leopards 16, Catalans Dragons 26. Next up, we have Hull Kingston Rovers taking on the Salford Red Devils. So the 3 biggest things, I think, for Salford going into this game. Number 1, there's no pressure on them. I think that's huge for them. There's no real pressure. The fans aren't really on their backs. They're on the club's back, but not the players' back, so that's a good thing. Number 2, players have been paid. I believe they've all been paid, like, earlier than expected. So in terms of probably sort of mental health going into this week, there's less pressure thinking about the financial side of things, how they're going to look after family, how they're going to look after themselves. So I think that kind of takes a bit of pressure off as well. And number 3, I think the majority of the crowd's going to be behind them. I know Hull KR, they travel extremely well as a fan base, and, you know, they'll be extremely loud. But I think KR fans will probably acknowledge and understand the rest of the crowd just wanting to get behind Salford. So there's just a few things there. It's not really much in the way of performance, but just, you know, let's cover what we can positively about Salford at the moment. Now, if they can put out their best squad, again, the reasons are lack of cohesion, but I think there's always half a chance in there. You just never know, you know, if it's a real off day for KR. They don't usually have those, but, you know, we'll just throw that out there. But Hull KR, they are battle-hardened going into this one with the performances over the last couple of weeks. I can't imagine a slip-up in this game. I believe they're doing fine in terms of injuries. It does feel like they're being stretched and tested a little bit, but I think in terms of player availability, I'm pretty sure Hull KR is fine, as far as I'm aware. But they've been really put through their paces over the last few weeks. And I think the energy levels could be slightly lower going into this one. Maybe there could be a little bit of complacency, just a small aspect to that, but I have 0 major concerns over Hull Kingston Rovers going into this one. So I'm going to go with Hull KR 36, Salford Red Devils 6. Next up, we have St Helens taking on Leeds Rhinos. Now, I think the most even matchup for these two teams is probably Saints' defence versus Leeds' attack. I think that's quite well balanced Because Saints, they can stay strong defensively, they can pin teams back, they can do good work through the middle of the park, and they can defend their own goal line fairly well at times. Plus Leeds, they are lacking a bit of penetration on the attacking side. A lot of it's just Connor and Miller creating a lot of opportunities, really carrying that offense. It is building gradually, but I think that's a really good matchup in this game, so we'll see how that goes. On the flip side, I think Leeds' defence versus Saints' attack, I think leans quite favourably towards Leeds. Saints' attack has looked really dull over the past few weeks, and Leeds defensively, they've been really, really strong, and people still aren't talking about that much, especially, on Sky and other sort of social media platforms. They're not really talking about Leeds' defence, but it's been very strong. Now, we all know Saints can play up to the big occasion, so that's something you'd expect them to do. It is a big occasion, it's Magic Round, plenty of fans in the ground. They will play up to the occasion, you'd imagine. But I think Leeds' forward pack, over the course of 80 minutes, will just wear Saints down. I think, we look at the Saints' forward pack, it looks strong. But I think they've been maybe a touch off in some of the games over the last few weeks. The Wigan game, they were well up for it. But Leeds, I think the forward pack's been putting in consistently solid performances, solid to great performances over the last few weeks. So I think the forward pack of Leeds could be another big advantage for them. And if you look at last week's performances, Saints lost a game that they should have won. I said it in the Power Rankings video, and I'll say it again. Saints, under the circumstances that Warrington were facing, should have won that game. Plain and simple. And Leeds pushed a Hull KR team for well over an hour, I think you'd say. I could, give or take, a few minutes here and there. But around an hour, really pushed Hull Kingston Rovers. Had to deal with a sin bin early on. That could have, ruined the game very early. But again, remained defensively strong, conceding one try, and that was it. And Brad Arthur, I think he's getting good efforts out of this Leeds side on a regular basis. Helens still not getting a tune out of Saints properly. So I'm going to go with St Helens 12, Leeds Rhinos 20. Next up, we have Huddersfield Giants taking on Hull FC. Now, Huddersfield, unfortunately, just stink right now. They unfortunately just stink. I actually don't know, with all due respect, what else I can say. I don't think there's much you guys expect me to say about Huddersfield at this point. Now, this does feel like a game that is pure bait for a Giants win. They haven't won a game all season, and I just know this is going to be one of the more comfortable results of the season that I'm going to predict, and it's just going to fall to shite. Hull FC are looking really comfortable, and I expect them to dominate in pretty much every area imaginable. Maybe it's a decent forward battle at most, but that's dependent on player availability for the Giants basically going into this one. But even then, if it's a good battle, I trust Hull FC over the course of 80 minutes. With the forwards that they've got, with the kicking game from Caesar, with the kick chase they've got now, and the defensive resilience that they've got, over 80 minutes Hull FC would be fine, even if Huddersfield have a really strong forward pack to present this week. There's nothing else that I can really say, guys. It's a winless side versus a side that's beaten the worst teams in the league. They've competed with and beaten some of the midfield teams, and they've competed with and even beaten some of the best in the league. So I think this is night and day for this one. So I'm going to go with Huddersfield Giants 6, Hull FC 40. Next up, we have the Wigan Warriors taking on the Warrington Wolves. Now, Wigan have beaten Hull Kingston Rovers, St Helens and Hull FC going into this game for the last 3 weeks in a row. Warrington are without Williams and Sneed going into this. So I think expectations and pressure probably really low for Warrington at the moment. Defensive lapses could be a huge problem for Warrington, given the speed and the execution that Wigan play with at the moment. It's going to be a real difficult job. I think Warrington might be a little bit more settled in the back line in back-to-back weeks or back-to-back-to-back weeks possibly. But Wigan, the way that they distribute the ball in all areas of the park is ridiculously good. It's very difficult to pin them back. When they shift the ball early in the tackle count inside the middle third, they spread the ball towards the edges, they eat up so many meters. There's so much clarity down that left-hand side, and the right-hand side's really, really starting to click a little bit more this year as well. And I tell you what, Abasmiski could do with a bit more praise. Even from me, he could do with a bit more praise. I think Wigan in the middle will likely win that battle. And as I say, their execution all over the park, I think over the course of 80 minutes, even if Warrington can try and put up a good fight, it will be very difficult. On to Warrington. In the halves, there are a few options, or plenty of options we can go with, but here's the three that I would like. The third most favoured option for me is Walker plus Irwin. because that means, yeah, Walker, who's been in there 2 weeks in a row, he'll be more and more comfortable. That right edge will be more and more comfortable with him there, and they can hopefully develop a bit more. And then Irwin, it's a young lad getting experience. It's a big game. You haven't really got the expectations on him, though. Burgess can just say, do what you can. Take on a bit of the kicking responsibility here and there. Go for a run every now and then if you see something. There's no pressure. That's number 3. Number 2 is Walker and Powell. Powell's played as a number 7 before, I think, for Wigan. A good handful of times, not that much, I don't think, but a good handful. He's familiar with the position. Hookers can usually translate to halfbacks on occasion. I think Walker and Powell could have a good connection in some way, and that allows Curry to stay as number 13 to keep spreading the ball, and then Crowther is the number 9 for probably 80 minutes, unless there are some rotations there. But the most favourable one for me, I think, is Walker and Curry. Curry has played in the halves before. Walker does have a solid enough kicking game, as we've seen when he's been a hooker, and I think that could work. And it also allows 3 props, because if we can have Musgrove, Vaughan and Harrison in there, I think we can take the fight to Wigan's forwards early on. So that's what I go with, Curry and Walker, and then we get the 3 biggest guys on, compete with Wigan early, try and stay in the game as long as possible, and see if we can just chip away. But as of right now, I think Warrington's efforts, I think, will be the most important thing, just the effort, but the quality I think will be lacking on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to go with Wigan Warriors 32, Warrington Wolves 14. Finally for this round, we have the Castleford Tigers taking on Wakefield Trinity. Now this is a great chance for Cass to get some revenge here after a few weeks ago, but I do have a slight feeling that Wakefield might have sorted out the performances from a couple of weeks ago, and it won't be quite as competitive. It's just a gut feeling at the moment, but Cass can now present a stronger forward pack than what they had initially to start the season. They can now present a stronger one with Desiree and Amon in there. So there's a chance they compete a little bit stronger. Wakefield, they've had to rotate a lot in the forwards and in the backs. They're getting a little bit stretched. The good thing is with Wakefield, even with the rotations that they have to put out there, in the forwards, they're still pretty big up front. In the backs, you can tell there's a bit of disconnect. But in the forwards, even rotationally, there's still big guys in there. So I think it will be a good battle through the middle. I think Cass will give them a good go again. I think Wakefield is still playing with a lot of maturity. The vibe that I get from them, and this is meant with no disrespect, this is just the vibe that I think Wakefield are playing with in a good way, in a mature way, is that they're playing for the right to deserve to be there. They're playing like every week they have to show that they deserve to be part of Super League, which I think is a good thing, and that's meant in no disrespectful way at all. Cass is still a little bit predictable, typically, offensively, but Tex Hoy, I think, could still elevate Cass. I think he is still the MVP of the Castleford Tigers. Now, I do hope Cass can continue to slightly improve on a week-to-week basis. Hopefully the 2, somewhat decent efforts to put in over the last few weeks can be backed up again, hopefully. But I think in terms of execution, the scramble defensively, execution in possession, the individual quality, I think leans in favour of Wakefield as of right now. So yeah, I'm going to go Castleford Tigers 12, Wakefield Trinity 24. So that's going to be it for this video. If you guys have your own predictions, please do let me know in the comment section down below. And also make sure you answer the Rugby League fan question. And if you want to join the Kinetic Rugby League Discord, you can check the link in the description along with the Kinetic Rugby League website. And if you'd like to become a member and support the work that I do, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and join for as little as £1 a month. So yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.